Our first expert, he is a professor. He is on the board of local radio. And he's also, more importantly, one of those amazing IT guys. You know what I'm talking about, those people in the office you're always looking for when something screws up and they're like, I don't work for you exactly, but I'll help you if we're friends. And his story is about a startup, a .com, if you will, and it was called Spindle. And this is a story of how his spindle unspooled. Dr. James Moore.
All right, good evening, everybody. How you doing? Good. All right, so let me take this out here so I can. I like once I get going, I like to start talking, and it's probably going to be hard to get me to stop. Okay, so this story is about the evolution of Spindle Consulting. So going back to roughly 2005, I was tasked with putting a website together for a buddy/client. I thought, seems fair enough. I pulled in a webmaster. We had the idea. We brought it to them. They had a catering company, and they serviced little private schools around Phoenix. I thought, okay, no problem. The problem was our webmaster started doing things for us, and they started running out of time, and they couldn't handle the amount of changes that we needed. So what we did is we started learning HTTP, PHP, CSS, HTML, all that good stuff. Because we thought, hey, we can do this. All right, so what ends up happening is I realized I have a business idea here. I can turn this into a business. And so that's what we did. Now, our goal was to create businesses that were self-sustainable. How many of you have called your IT guy or your webmaster, and the moment you called in, they say, hey, it's going to be $50 to talk to me? No, one person? That's it? Just one? No one else has called an IT person? We just heard a story about that. Okay. So my goal was to make sure that my organizations that I serviced were self-sustainable. So we teach them how to operate their website so they only called us in emergencies. As a side note, I found that every time I built a website for someone, I automatically became their computer guy. Yeah. So that didn't work out so well. So what happens, we start bringing in these accounts, and I had a business partner that I was working with. We had a three-way split. We put 25% or 33% into the business. Each of us got 33%. That was the idea when the business first started. Okay, it's going to change in a second. Now, I worked with this gentleman, and we had a few accounts that came in. Some of them did relatively well. We had a lot of mom and pop shops who didn't charge them a lot of money. The whole point was to make them sustainable. There was a particular night we got hacked, and it was one of our biggest clients, one that paid us a fairly decent sum each year. I called my business partner up, and let me kind of backtrack and tell you something. He started suffering through financial issues, and I tell you this because it's going to make a little bit more sense here in a second. His financial issue revolved around not being able to manage his finances, his personal finances very well. One particular day I called him up and I said, hey, we need to work on this project. He said, I cannot. I said, why not? He says, if I turn on anything other than my electricity in terms of my air conditioner or my washer and dryer, it'll shut off. I thought that was interesting, okay? So, we end up getting hacked. And I tell him on this particular night, I need you to be with me to finish this project. I know you're in a different place. Would you forward for me? Because I want to share a couple of things here. Okay. We did bring in a partner eventually because we needed more help with the work. But when we got hacked, this was a project that we needed to get back up and running because this was a large client. And he fell asleep that day that I needed him. I called him up and I said, hey, what's going on? I got voicemail. Send him a text. No response. I was up till 3 o'clock that night building that site again. Okay. Clear? Going back to the electrical thing, I just have to share this with you. He told me that he had an electrical boot. Anybody ever heard of that? Okay. No, not the kind you wear. Okay, an electrical boot saying that if you use more than a certain amount of voltage or amperage or something like that, they would actually cut you off. They would shut down your power. That's how bad of a financial situation he was in. Now, I want to share with you, this same gentleman went out to apply for a job. I told him, hey, do you have a nice shirt and tie? He said, no, I'm going to wear a polo shirt and a pair of slacks. I said, why won't you have a shirt and tie? He says, I can't afford it. Okay, no problem, I understand. I didn't foot the bill for that, but what was happening is I was helping him out. And the way I was helping is I was writing him a check against the upcoming accounts. That was my mistake, okay? The reason why that was a mistake is because he thought that was the way that the business operated. Once again, it was my mistake. I should have never helped him out. So I created what I call the first bank of James. Because every time we had an account come up, he would come to me and say, hey, can you write me the check can you advance me my portion? Okay, and this became a habit, a very bad habit, one that actually eventually ended our friendship. Okay, when I talked to him about going for this particular interview, and he said he couldn't afford the shirt and tie, about a week later he called me up and he said, hey, guess what? I just found a golf club repair kit on eBay for 15 bucks. And I said, it would have cost you 15 bucks to get the shirt and tie. Of course, you know you didn't get the job. So what happened is I feared the dissolution of this business because I had friends working with me. Now, we've all heard that friends and business sometimes don't mix, right? Y'all are very reticent tonight. Have we heard that friends and business don't mix? Yeah, we've heard that, okay? These were two very good friends. One I'd known for the better part of 30 years, and one that I've been working with since 2005. So what I did is I changed the format of the business because I didn't want to lose the friendship. So I said, okay guys, here's what's happening. I've been bringing in all the accounts. You guys aren't bringing in anything. So if you bring in an account, you get the lion's share. If you farm out work to the rest of us, that's your account. You determine what that's going to be. So that was the format I tried because I didn't want to lose the friendships. Guess what? It didn't work. Okay, because I was still bringing in the accounts and they still wanted their cut. So actually what I ended up doing is I focused a little bit more of doing, say for instance, feasibility studies and things that I knew specifically they could not do. Why did I set it up that way? Yeah, so I could make money, I knew they couldn't do it. That was my way of starting to ease them out the door, okay? It's tough when you go into business with friends. That was my mistake because I looked at the friendship route first and I let that mess up the business. That's a mistake that some of you probably have made. If you haven't made it, don't, okay? It's a horrible way to do things, okay? So I ended up going solo. I dissolved the partnerships and one of the friendships. I don't work with this gentleman anymore and we don't really speak, okay? Because of what happened. Now, he kind of filled me in as to how he got into that financial bind. I asked him. He said he went to a place where they gave payday loans. Now, how many of you know what payday loans are designed to do? Okay, now, if you want to make some money, that's a good business to get into, okay? But they don't do well for folks in the community. So that's what ended up happening with them. So, what I found out is that lending is for financial institutions, not the first bank of James. Okay, everyone's heard that old adage, for best policy, a borrower nor lender be, right? Okay, that was my lesson that I had to learn. Friends and business do not always mix. Sad, sad thing, but that's the way it is, okay? Lee, if you would be so kind. I lost a friendship. I lost money. And also because of this, I lost some of my trust with my clients. Kind of a sad thing to happen. All right, so what did I learn? Recognize your mistakes, figure out what works, and write it down. Share them, which is why we're here tonight. And I know some of y'all are just you're not smiling, you're not laughing, but I'm gonna leave you with a story before I get out of here. There's another mistake I made, but this is not directly involved with business. This is a story I'm gonna share with you about a young lady I dated years ago. And I guarantee you this will make you laugh. I promise. Years ago, I'm calling it right now, I'm making a promise. Years ago I dated a young lady from Iraq. And we went on we'll call it a date, and it was at our holiday party for a place I used to work. I used to teach at a culinary school. We went through the line, and I'm going through asking, hey, do you want X, do you want Y, and so on and so forth. And she's saying yes, no, and all that good stuff. Well, we get to a spot where the starches are. You guys know what I mean by starches, grains, macaroni, pasta, etc. And I asked her, would you like some couscous? And she began to grin sheepishly. She actually got kind of shy, and I couldn't figure it out. And so we go on and we serve dinner, we have dinner, and a couple of weeks later, now, when I go through the line with her, I'm asking her, like, why don't you want couscous, and why, what's going on? I'm like, don't you eat couscous? Everyone in here eats couscous, in the United States love couscous, eat it all the time. And she just gave me a funny look. So a couple of weeks later when we're hanging out, I said, hey, what was all that couscous stuff? And she said, where I'm from, couscous is slang for the female sex organ. And then I thought back about what I had said to her. I eat couscous all the time. Everybody in the United States eats couscous. Folks, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. James Moore.
Let's give it up again for Dr. Moore. Yeah. Funny those linguistic faux pas. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest originally. I've been out here in the Southwest for 25 years, but when I grew up, my favorite Mexican restaurant, I was from Michigan, so I can say this. There's a restaurant called Chi-Chi's. Okay, even white people in Arizona laugh when you say Chi-Chi's, because we all knew that that's slang term for breasts in Spanish, but nobody clearly knew that in Michigan, because we were all going to eat at Chi-Chi's. I think they've gone out of business, which I think they realized they could only expand so far. And then they met, and the country has grown in terms of Latinos and Latinas, and they were like, we're not going to eat at Chi-Chi's. That is like the Mexican Hooters. We are classier than that. And one of the first times I was here, I explained that to a classroom full of teenagers, and they all laughed at me, and I felt like a super creep. Linguistics. All right.